Hallo und herzlich willkommen, greetings and welcome, ich dein Hazat. In the first video about the balance patch that we will make while porting the cards from Tesla to Tabletop Simulator. What you will see in this video is a collection of all the proposed changes that were made with the small group I have assembled to go over the corset cards. A few disclaimers before we start going here. First is that this is the corset, so most of the stuff that you want to see changed isn't from here, because the core set was actually well balanced. We don't really need to nerf that many stuff here. And the second that you need to pay attention to is that these changes are proposed. These are not the changes that we will make. I've just asked everyone what they think. These were the answers that I have gotten. And now we will further think about what could be changed, how this would affect the meta. Would this change break the game? Because we don't want to make changes that alter the game so much that you won't even recognize that this is Tessel. Tessel will remain Tessel. We'll just try to find some cards that were underbalanced or unplayable, and we will try to make them playable. And that's the whole point of this balance patch. So with knowing that, let's start going into the changes. We'll go attribute by attribute and cost by cost, so we'll start with strength first. So the first card that got some suggestions is Rift and Pillager. In the first version, we will alter one of the stats on this card, and the second will alter the cost. Now the next card that came up quite a few times is Willenwood Huntsman, because you don't really see this card on the ladder. The first version of change would see the cost changed, and the second would see a stat changed. If the cost changes, then so would the power, and we would have something with the text. If the cost stays the same, then we just change the health. So in this case, Willenwood Huntsman will become a 2-cost card, but a 2-cost 3-1 that deals 1 damage and summon is quite powerful, so it will go down to 2 power, but it will be still quite powerful, so the damage can't go face now. If the cost stays the same, then we'll just buff the health. This is the least impactful change. This could alter some playstyles, so we'll try to figure out which one suits better the game, and then we'll make that change. Next card has only one proposed change. It is a Licorice Survivalist, and the cost will be the one to change. But if the cost changes, then it's pretty clear that the stat can't remain the same. So with the cost, we will change the health and maybe even the power. So obviously the cost will go down to 3. In this case, health goes down to 3, and the power either remains the same or gets nerfed to 2. The card itself will still see more play than it is right now. We'll see if the change happens at all, or if it happens, then what will be the final costs. This is why we have this assembled group of players that we can go through these, think about the changes, and then do what will hopefully be best for Tessel. Now, next up on the menu is Fireball. There isn't much that you can change on this card, so it's pretty clear that the cost will change, and there is only one way this card could go, and it's down. Trebuchet has been an outstanding card. Outstanding in that the card itself looks so cool, but yet it can't be really played. So the buff will affect its health. It will obviously go up to 5. But the problem is that even like this, I don't know if this will help Trebuchet at all. It will break the 4/4/4 that's so nice as a design concept on the card. But I think as a 6 it will be too much now. Next up is a controversial change, because this will be a revert. Burn and Pillage used to cost 6, but it also used to affect both lanes. This is obviously quite powerful, and we'll look into how it could be implemented. If this turns out to be too much, then we'll just leave the card as it is. I didn't even know Dread Clan Fear is a core set card. The only decks that you see this nowadays is Invade, but it could be played in other aggro decks because the summon ability is quite good. The problem is its cost. So what we could try to do is buff its cost to 5. Vortgar Forge used to be better, but as time went on and the expansion came out, on the one hand, more powerful cards got added into the game, and on the other, the item pool inflated. So what the proposed changes to make Vortgar Forge cost only 6. Moving on to Crew of Firebloom, the staple cards of every Telvanni control deck nowadays. There are 2 proposed changes. One of them affects the cost of this card, the other the damage. We will either set this to cost 1 or to only deal 4 damage. Next up we have a card that has been in the center of discussions, and you can see that by the fact that we have 3 proposed changes. The most easily made one would only affect the cost. The other 2 I will have to explain further. I don't know if you know this, but right now the random creature that gets summoned by Spymaster works like this. The game rolls cost first, creature second. And because of this, you have much higher chances to get high cost creatures. So the first change is easy. Just set it to 3 and now you can't summon this with your conscriptions. And also it comes down later when playing Altar. The second change, we'll just set it so that we delete the cost rolling phase. We just roll a creature. The third change affects the fact that you can summon Spymasters infinite times. And also you can Spymaster and then target it with a Firebloom or with a Betray effect. In the third proposed change, Spymaster will not be targetable by you. Crystal Tower Crafter was nerfed before Sorcerer's Negation got added to the game because it was strong when you played Crystal Tower Crafter and you played Lesser Ward on her, but now we have so many silence effects in the game that maybe it could be time this gets reverted. At least this is what one of the players thought, because they will just give her both stat changes back, so she will be a 2/2. The other possible changes that we still don't want to get her out of hand so easily. So we'll set the power to 2, but we'll leave the health at 1. This is a much safer option. One of the players expressed frustration about prophecies, but especially about Harpy. He would propose that Harpy's stats get swapped, leaving Harpy at being a 1/2. There was also a change proposed to Kragler Scavenger to make mage support decks more viable. This change would affect its stats. From 1, it will go to being a 2 power. We have 2 versions for the Farsighted Narrate change. It will either change the power of the card or the effect. We could set Farsighted Narrate to being a 4 power, or that the summon effect gives you intel about the top 2 cards of the enemy deck. Ash Servant has also piqued quite a few members' interest. One change will target the cost, one change will target the stats, and one change will target the effect. It will either cost 3, being a 3/3, or be able to target face. Glenumbra Sorceress is a card that you don't see outside of the AI decks. What we could do is either change the cost of the card or add an effect to it. If we change the cost, it would go down to being a 4 cost. If we change the effect, we give her this. When Glenumbra Sorceress's ward is broken, put a lesser ward into your hand. Somerset Orrery has also seen quite a few versions. We could either just change the cost to 5, or we could say that once it shuffles all the prophecies into your deck, you draw that many plus 1 cards, But this will be, I do think this will be too powerful, because then it will become an intelligence 6 cost draw 3. You could instead just go with the same effect, but only less gas. Studium Headmaster has seen no play since they put the turn timer so that the opponent's turn timer doesn't start until the animations finish. We could change the cost of this card from being a 6 cost to being a 5 cost. Shocking the Massive was nerfed because everyone picked it in Arena. Since there won't be any Arena in Tabletop Simulator, we can just revert the nerf. There was someone who thought that Wolf decks could use a buff. He proposed to make Alpha Wolf from being a 3-1 to being a 3-2. Imperial Might is a dangerous card, not because it's power level, but because you don't know which balance point would be the one that breaks the card. Let's hope that setting it to 4 cost isn't that breaking point yet. There was someone who proposed that Pillaging Tribune be reverted. The original state of this card said that you would give all friendly creatures in this lane drain this turn. If we find this too powerful, there is still the possibility to making this be one in both lanes. Spiteful Dremora, while Luke's cooling concept, is a 5 cost, and it's hard to compete with Javelin and Leaflurker. We could either give it a stat buff, or buff its cost, so it would either become a 5-4 or a 4 cost. Renowned Legate is one of those early cards that you have, you find it cool, but then you figure out that this card isn't that powerful really. So what we could change is either its cost, but if the cost gets changed, then maybe the health should too, or just its health. The two versions will be, in this case, a 6 cost 5-4 or a 7 cost 5-6. And Glim has been glorious once. Maybe he should be again. Or maybe it will become too powerful. Now this will be a change that will get some people's blood boiling. The proposed change to Goblin Skulk is actually not a nerf. While it was a 2 cost 2-2 once, that way it will be still too powerful. What if we make this a 2 cost 2-1? Arrentius Swindler is again one of those cards that are really cool in concept, but are too situational. The first change will just make it so that you can steal all items from any creature. The second version will allow it, in case there are no items on the battlefield, to just put a copy of an item in your opponent's deck into your hand. There has been a purpose change for the Shine Avenger to make it a little bit more powerful. This would set this to 4-3, but the Dishan Snake that comes back will still be a 3-3. Of course, this would break the good symmetry with a 3-3 summoning a 3-3, but it would make the card more powerful. We've seen this coming from a long way, didn't we? I think there is no explaining to do here. We can all just enjoy watching the cost increased to 5. Now this is a useless card, isn't it? I guess this won't become any better, but at least you can play it in some cases. Stalwart Ally is the least played ally out of the 6. Maybe if it gives +0, +3 to itself, would you play it now? There is a chance, of course, that this will break the card. It will be a 3 cost 3-6 guard, and Hive Defender is already pretty good. So maybe we should discuss this. If I am told right, Black Marsh Warden used to summon Endurance recruits. So now the recruits would be Endurance again. Would this change much? Probably not. But at least you can play it in Endurance heavy decks. Alright, hear me out. First, it wasn't me, or well, it wasn't only me who proposed this change. But also, UESP doesn't even have the nerfed card art on the website yet. So maybe we could just change it back. But I know this might lead to problems, so we'll look into it, and if we do change the card, then all of the Abomination decks will get somehow nerfed in other ways. Have you ever wished you could have more powerful guards? Maybe if this change goes through, you will be able to now win games with them. But if this is too much, we can make it +2/+1. Have you ever played this? Tetsu. Would you play it like this? It will be pretty powerful, don't you think? So maybe we should nerf this too. Of course, this would ruin the nice pairing with Night Shadow, who is a 6 cost 5/6 breakthrough and drain. But let's be real, drain is more useful than regenerate. There was someone who thought Nightland Lord is too powerful with rage. And he is annoyed when Nightland Lord steals the creatures and then even uses the summon abilities of them. So maybe summon the slain creature but silence it right away. This way you're not stealing both elites now. The reason this isn't played is because Tribunal control is weak in Tesla right now, which is not really exactly a bad thing. But would you play more Iron Atronax if they had Ward? You're not the only one getting annoyed by being pinged to death with Master of Thieves. So we have two proposed changes. The first will make the ability only be active after the turn you have played Master of Thieves, and the second will make it only work with creatures in the same lane. While it is a 2-color card, you don't see Cedrus Agent that much. Maybe if we buff the health, you will now. At least it doesn't tie to negation. Now Inasi is another finisher that some people can be mad at. If it would only steal keywords in this lane, would you be less annoyed at this? One proposed change that came out of the blue affects Shorhelm Champion. According to this, we will change the buff it gains when the ward is broken, but we will also change the keyword to guard. But again, maybe this is too powerful. Skywatch Vindicator is again one of those cards that are 2 colors and yet we don't see them many times. Maybe we could either affect the cost of it, or just let the 2 damage go to any enemy, including their face. We'll see which version comes through. There was a certain someone who thought that wounded control should be a bit better, while this wouldn't help it much, but it's a buff nonetheless. And now turning to natural cards, we have Richmond Shaman first. While it isn't played, not even in token aggressive decks. Maybe if the buff would come at the end of your turn, you could play this in some cases. Slaughterfish Spawning is yet another card that has so much potential, but the cost really isn't worth it. We could either make it cost 3. Maybe even summon the Slaughterfish in the same lane. Another proposed change is that Slaughterfish Spawning should work like Skewers, and then we could shuffle a copy of it back into the deck when you play this. However, I don't think this would really be a buff, this is more like a nerf. And closing this video, there was a proposed change to Sparking Spider. Instead of 4 cost, it could be a 3 cost. If this helps Dwemer's too much, then we could maybe nerf the health so that it becomes only 2 health. Would you play it like this? And that marks the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you with the actual changes sometimes in the next month. Servus und farewell. Istenovion.